lucky to be up here. So I just want to have a shout out to the people that gave a talk before me, and also especially Margaret. Margaret Lee, she did an awesome opener for us, talking about Google CC and her experience with Google Maps. So if you indulge me, let's give them a round of applause. Last night, I had a chance to actually have dinner with all the speakers. So it was really nice. We went to Draper's, like way up there. I think it's called Suncrest. And it was my first time to be there. And after dinner, I said to Margaret and then Gabe, I don't know if Gabe's here, I said, hey, I'm going back to Bountiful. I'm passing Salt Lake, give you a ride. And it's like, yeah, totally. Like, it's a lot better. So give them a ride, and I said, like, oh, all I have to do is go west. I didn't pull up my maps, and all I have to do is go west. And I just keep on going, and it's like, man, where is the freeway in here? And then I saw the IKEA sign. I started to panic. It's like, oh, shoot, I'm lost. And I had a little nudge from Mark. It's like, hey, I think we're lost, And it's like, no, I'm fine. We'll go find it. So and I keep on driving, and we turn into this circle that has 4 different directions, and Margaret, just very unassuming, says, like, do you want me to pull up Google Maps? and I was like, yeah, maybe you should pull out Google Maps. And then I was like, and then in quiet, I was like, just totally embarrassed, like my mail, like, I get this. And then we finally had a U-turn, get back to the freeway. And once we're in the freeway, I kind of try to redeem myself, and it's like, so, Margaret, how does it feel using the product that you guys designed? And she's like, you know what, I use it all the time. Maybe you should. So, to be consistent with the theme of cars here, I just want to kind of share this story. Cadillac used to be an amazing car company. They build masterpieces. They just didn't build cars. Everything that they did was a masterpiece. And this is one of them, Cadillac Type 51. Everything about it was amazing. Like the outside, it looks stately, it's beautiful. Inside as well, all the instrumentation that you see, there was no details that was spared. The emblems, all the controls, it was the first one that has an electronic switch. Their engineering as well is phenomenally like a masterpiece. It was the first time that in a car company, actually they had 8 cylinders. It was powerful, it was strong, and they were just on the spotlight. Now, once you're in a spotlight, like here, you're not immune to any criticism or critics or pundits, right? And there was no different from Cadillac. So this is one of the critics of Cadillac here saying the V8 was skittery at first, prone to short circuits and fires. Packard made the most of Cadillac's problem. So Packard, just to give you a background, Packard is a car company, actually, that was top of the heap for luxury cars, kind of like the Lamborghini or maybe Mercedes, right? And I'm sure, like, Packard has nothing to do with this campaign, right? But it was interesting because Cadillac's response really showed them how classy they are and their leadership, right? They had an ad that they posted in Saturday Evening Post, and I love the illustration, by the way. And they did something that was so unconventional, so unique, and just really bold at that time. So they run an ad instead of a common picture of a car, our future, full page, color was available at that time. But Cadillac ran this ad, black and white words, no picture of the cars, and the title of it is The Penalty of Leadership. It was written by Theodore McManus. So if you're a professional advertiser, you would say, very bold, but not very smart. You just missed and you just lost making a splash for a brand new product. But the opposite thing happened. For the next 30 years, people were calling Saturday Evening Post. It's like, hey, can I get a copy of that ad? Or they were calling Cadillac. It's like, hey, can I get a copy of that? It won so many awards in advertising agencies that I was like, this is like one of the best marketing strategy ever made. So by now, you're probably curious, like, what the heck is in the ad? And maybe to give $1 million or something like that. But So I'm going to take some time today because I think it's brilliant and what they wrote in it. And I'm going to ask for volunteers if you don't mind, and we're going to read through it. Don't worry, we're not going to read everything. We're just get some snippets. So can I have a volunteer from the audience? This is your chance to come up here. Don't be shy. Oh, way at the back over there. Awesome. Thank you. So take your time when you read it. I got a mic here. Hello? There you go. Does it work? Okay. I think maybe that's, yeah, wherever you feel comfortable. So I'm on it. So thank you for volunteering. Glasses. And what's your name, by the way?
Matt.
Matt. Thanks, Matt. So let's do it.
Oh, good. I was like, am I supposed to be able to read that?
Okay. You can remove your mask if you want.
Okay. The penalty of leadership. In every field of human endeavor, he that is first. Oh, I got it right here.
Yeah, come here.
In every field of human endeavor, he that is first must perpetually live in the white light of publicity. Whether the leadership be vested in a man or in a manufactured product, emulation and envy are ever at work, in art, in literature, in music, in industry. The reward and the punishment are always the same. The reward is widespread recognition, the punishment, fierce denial and detraction. Okay.
Next.
When a man's work becomes a standard for the whole world, it also becomes a target for the shafts of the envious few. If his work be mediocre, he will be left severely alone. If he achieves a masterpiece, it will set a million tongues a-wagging. Multitudes flocked to Bayreuth to worship at the musical shrine of Wagner, while the little group of those whom he had dethroned and displaced argued angrily that he was no musician at all. If the latter truly leads, he remains the leader. Master poet, master painter, master workman. Each in his turn is assailed, and each holds his laurels through the ages. That which is good or great makes itself known, no matter how loud the clamor of denial. That which deserves to live, lives.
And thank you, Matt. And which company you're from? Weave. It's awesome. So, hey, give me a hand. All right. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Matt. Hey, see me afterwards. If you see me, I got something for you. So thank you so much for reading this with me. If I have a summary or a TLDR of this one, there is an inherent penalty of being a leader. And the true work of a true leader is a masterpiece that will survive the test of times. So in this case, I was really impressed how Cadillac handled everything. From the masterpiece that they built, a beautiful car, the engine was a masterpiece. Their engineering was fascinating. And even their strategy on marketing strategy was amazing. Everything just consistently theme of just everything was a masterpiece. So I was so intrigued with this. It's like, what does it take for a company or a group of people or an individual to actually create a masterpiece? So when they asked me to give a talk, when you get to be as old as me, you get to work with a lot of people like in the early stage of UX, and I had the opportunity to work with like all or most of these people actually. And there's a few more, so I took the time to interview them and say, hey, could you tell me like what is the difference between a lot of these? So between a mediocre performer and a leader that actually creates a masterpiece. It was a very interesting conversation. So I got to talk to people that, not just managers, but they are just really good at what they do. They're really good in design. They're just really good PMs. And also some leaders in the industry, like talked to Cameron Mall, had a really good conversation. Some designers in Tesla, UX designers in Tesla, I was like, hey, dude, tell me what sets you guys apart, right? And just a lot of these guys that are just, I highly respect and just really masters in what they do. So a conversation went to this. What's the difference between mediocre? What do you do? And what's the difference for somebody, a leader that does a masterpiece? And it's very interesting because there's 3 simple but timeless principles that they shared. It was, and I'm just passionate to share this to you guys because these are principles. You can take this to whatever you do. You're a junior designer or a mid-level or a senior designer, and this is the same principles that you use to actually move to another level of career. If you're gonna go to people management, this could be useful. But if you just wanna be really good in what you do, these principles applies first as well. So the first one that I'm gonna share to you is this thought of, if you're gonna do something mediocre, you focus on the short term. And if you do something of a masterpiece, you focus on the long term. Very simple concept, right? But it's more than that. It's a set of mind frame, right? A mindset. So when you focus on the short term, you become transactional. You just kind of think like, what's next? I do this and you get this. When you start thinking long term, you start thinking transformational things. Like, what can I do to move this needle from this needle to this needle, right? Because of the time frame that you have. So it really expands. This simple exercise alone could really expand your thinking. Second thing is short term, you focus on task. Long term, you focus on outcomes. So when you're at work, you start thinking about this. Which framework am I working on, right? And short term, again, focus on what? And the long-term thinkers actually focus on the why. And these framework right here is really helpful for you to kind of take your thinking to the next level. So I'm going to use my current job, my current work right now. Transformation, for example, was the one that we came out to. Democratize incentive compensation and design planning. So just to give a little bit of background, I'm a co-founder at Spiff about 3 years ago. We started this, and then the space that we're trying to get in is really, in a nutshell, we're trying to really make incentive compensation planning really available to all. Because this, in your work, if you're a for-profit, you get salespeople, they're marketing people, and sometimes CS people. They're actually they don't have a regular compensation like you. You have incentivized compensation. It's variable, basically, and it's based on certain milestone that they get paid. And some of these rules are really complicated. You gotta transpose your revenue models, and you transpose it to mathematical, translation, and then you have to make sure you present that to your salespeople or marketing people. It makes sense to them. They'll understand how they're commissioned on something, how their salary pan out. So that's what we do. And this is our goal, to democratize it, because the reason being is 90% in this industry, what we found out 3 years ago, is a service companies masquerading as SaaS software companies. They think like, oh, we're selling you software, but actually the bulk of your payment is like, it's building the plans and developing it. And it's understandable because a lot of these translation for your revenue models are very complicated. This is one logic of the rules of a business. So you go to your company, you'll have a lot of empathy if you talk to your salespeople. Is one of the biggest problems. So we want to democratize something so complex and to simplify it and not having people hire people to actually do it for them. So that was our lofty goal. And thinking long terms give you an opportunity to walk back what you needed to do to accomplish that. It is really hard for anyone to say like, I'm here. It's hard to connect the dots from the past. It's a lot easier to connect the dots from the future. You sit in the future and you start connecting the dots like, this is what I need to do to get there. So in our case, what we did, we walk it back, said we are here. This time frame, by the way, is like a 3 years time frame. And you just need to be very strategic and thinking what I need to do. So if you notice here is the different names of the versions of our software. So that's kind of like what we did. We name a version of the software with famous source spots. around the country, around the globe. So Oakland, Bonsai is in Hawaii, Rincon is actually in Puerto Rico, and Rio Grande is in Brazil. These are famous source files, just to create that theme, right? But then underneath the theme, we're very clear. Remember the framework? Long-term thinking thinks about outcomes. So there's the transformation that we're trying to achieve, and what are different outcomes that we need to do to get there. So the first one is very simple. It's like in about a year, we put our time frame, we need to be able to have a product that we can demo in SaaSter. SaaSter is the conference where new startups shows up and like they present their product there and saying like, hey, hello world, we're here, we're on for business, right? And the next one was Bonsai and so on and so forth. So I just want to kind of demonstrate to you like how do you break that apart. Each of these versions are composed of hundreds of design actions, hundreds of engineering actions, and hundreds of research, right? So that skill of thinking long-term also needs for you to actually try to break that apart in smaller pieces that you can reach to that. The reality is that it's not a straight line all the time. It's this weavy up and down, at least for our experiences, right? So if you guys wanted to do this, I highly recommend is bias towards action, because that speed of innovation is really important. Don't use data, do the best thinking, do the best decision that you can, but don't get stuck on analysis paralysis. I bet you 100% you're not going to get it right, no matter how you dig into your data and how much you do. You're going to have to readjust, and you got to reiterate on that all the time, right? So, and that's lesson personally for me. It might be different for others, right? So the second principles that I gathered from interviewing these masters or people that are really good in what they do is it came from this quote, is I would spend 55 minutes defining the problem and 5 minutes solving it. So focus on the solution and focus on the problem. If you want to create mediocre products, right, that doesn't last, focus on the solution. If you want to really have a masterpiece, focus on the problem. I think the best way for me to explain this is a story, an experience that I have when I was working for Instructure a few years ago. So this is a tale of two products in the same companies. Same thing, same resources, but different outcomes. So Canvas, if some of you know, is a very, very successful product. You know, it's a learning management system used by a huge number of universities, and it's almost a monopoly for Canvas. Very successful. It was very, very good success. They were solving the problem for education. So, and the leadership, and I'm part of the problem. So it's like, hey, you know, it'd be awesome if we do the same thing to the corporate world, and we're going to make the same solution, and we just make it nice, better experience, everything, right? And we're going to make so much, it will be so successful. So this was Bridge. As we took the best developers, best designers, best product managers, create even better product than Canvas. But our success was interestingly marginal compared to Canvas. It's very interesting. Our resources was even better. You know, if you can see like the difference between the two is very good. So we're scratching our head for like 2.5 years to even 3 years, like, man, what happened here, right? We're making some clients, but it wasn't like Canvas, you know. And we had some new blood, new people, new partnership, and the company came in, a new VP of product, and this was a chance to say, hey, do you mind, you know, when you have a new leadership, it's a way for you to like, hey, maybe we should try something new. And he was up for it. What we discovered was we pivoted and said, hey, let's focus on the problem that we're trying to solve. And it was very interesting because when we focused on a problem, we realized that we have a totally different point of view. So training is only a piece of the problem that corporate trying to solve. There's performance management, there's career growth, there's alignment. Once we realized this, that these are the problems that we're solving, there was totally different mindset that came into the company. There's so much more innovation that came in. We started building things that, you know, like you got your one-on-one tool. We discovered that the performance management that we know now in the industry is so broken because you only have a review every 6 months or every year. We started to go and post this continuous evaluation, right, include continuous improvement. We built some innovation on career development. Some of the most beautiful design that I've seen and experience that I've seen actually in my career was in here, and the best innovation. Some really thoughtful thinking around career drivers, really understanding your motivation, your purpose, what is the most important for you. And we discovered that there are 6 drivers for a person. Like there's purpose, challenge, empathy. Some people are driven by autonomy. Some people are driven by work-life balance. And some people are driven by culture. It was just fascinating to see the number of innovation that came out. Once you identify the problem that you're solving, some of the greatest masterpieces that I would consider came out from this. We almost overnight, we became a company called People Matter Most. And from a learning company to a people company was just an amazing place to work. His subject is so engaging. It was so interesting, and one of the best times of my careers. Interestingly, just a personal side note here, a personal story, is that this is an aside. This story, I think, should be told by somebody else. And this was the VP of product that challenges the existing thoughts and partner with them and say, hey, we're going to challenge the existing thinking about our product. And he was up for it. And we got so busy thinking about other people's problem that we forgot that there's people sometimes that we work with that has those problems. It's so ironic because we're working on a product like People Matter Most, and the people around us that we forgot about them. So mental health is a real issue, and especially the times of pandemic. So it's a side note, and I wanted to bring this up because he should be the one telling the success story. He's not here. I'm taking the credit, but really the credit belongs to Matt Bingham. So the second one is, the third one, this is the last tip, or the list principles is, back in 2018, that when I started a company with this co-founders, it came from that, this principle came from that experience. And this principle is what I call is, if you want to create mediocre product, you focus on the empathy on the user. But if you want to create a masterpiece, you focus on the user, and you also focus your empathy towards the business. You know, sometimes we think the business doesn't have a face, but my experience when we were just us, I saw the face of people that has to solve these different problems, the problems in marketing, the problems in sales. I want to share this to you. This is one of my favorite PMs that I used to work here with. His name is Gentry Davis. There's no logo of Divi here because I didn't have permission to post the logo of Divi, but he works at Divi. He's fascinating, and I love working with Gentry. And I talked to him about, it's like, hey, can you tell me a little bit with your experience? What's the difference between a mediocre and a person, a masterpiece? Let's listen to.
The most are ones that are maybe too fixated on a particular function, like usually the function they came from. So that'd be like, you know, if you're an engineer and you become like a CTO or you end up leading product or whatever, and you have like this engineering mindset and you neglect to understand the business, or you're like a designer and you're all about experience, but then you don't understand you know, finance or whatever. or the technical piece or whatever. So I think you get to a certain level of leadership where you're overseeing more than your own domain expertise.
Yes, yeah.
I think it gets tricky. I also think that like, yeah, mediocre. It's the opposite of all the things we talked about before of like,
right.
There's all different flavors. There's a lot of ways to be shitty. There's like through understanding people's, various positions really well and seeing how they all connect together. I think a mediocre product person stays in their lane that way, like where they're comfortable.
Yeah, I love that.
And doesn't doesn't get like enough context to be able to speak with confidence on the other stuff too.
So, very, very insightful. I think Gentry is the director of product management on Divi, that you gotta stay out of your lane. It's okay, and actually you should, if you wanna build something that more than just a mediocre product. In practical one, I wanna share maybe like a real case study that we currently did in my job. Might be very, like sometimes if you have a concrete example, right, it's easy to understand. So here's an example, some of our user research. For example, we discovered like we have this notes section. So you see that their app here, it has like a formula on top. And we notice in the notes section is just a trailing bunch of formulas, and people are copying their formula and putting it there. And we're wondering, like, why are users doing this? And what we discovered is they make some notes like, hey, this is the formula I did at this time, at this date, right? And I think from here, as a designer and a product manager, like, oh, I get it. I can actually create a feature set, right? But you're gonna get good product. I'm sure this is really good insight here. But then if you wanna take it further and say, hey, I wanna show more empathy towards the business. So this is how it looks like. This is how business empathy would look like. I would go to a salesperson or a sales leader to like, hey, what's our win-loss rate right now? And the salesperson would say, not very good. Well, very good, but when we come to enterprise and a public traded company, we kind of struggle a bit, and we don't know why. And he's like, okay, so tell me more about it. It's like, well, we got this couple of publicly traded companies, they're about to churn. I think there are some things that they're just not accomplishing, some gaps of our product, right? So, and then you can say, look, well, tell me a little bit more. What are these gaps? And the salesperson say, you know what? There's this new thing called SOX, right? This regulation called SOX, called Sarbanes-Oxley, that requires all financial reports to include internal controls. Somebody in your company, in sales organization or marketing organization, are like trying to solve this problem. Like, how can I sell around this, or how I can increase my win rate against during the enterprise? So as a product manager or designer, you can take this back, take this data, and actually find solution, not just for your users, but also for your business, right? So this is a small example, but I think you see the picture, right? It's like, don't just focus on the customer, focus on the business as well. So here's the solution that we did, is that we created what we called like an automatic version. So every time there's a change this is without friction at all. You just go there and actually keep track of everything that you do in anything that affects any financial data, and you can export this into this Excel sheet, which is a foundation, basically, of a SOX report. So I think with that simple things, you have push something that is a mediocre solution if you just stay with the users, and push it a little bit more by empathizing with your users. So that's a very concrete example. There's a lot in your company that happens like that. Do not be comfortable just staying on your lane. Go outside. I really love what Cameron Mall said here during a conversation. So he said, like, solve problems in the context of profitability. He said the masters are really good at doing this. They know how to solve users in the context of the profitability or the business, if you put it, you replace profitability there. So 3 things in summary: focus on the user and business empathy, focus on the problem, focus on the focus on the problem, focus on the long term. These are simple principles, but it takes a lot of focus. And focus means this is the central, 100% of your energy is going towards it. Sometimes it's too simple that you kind of just like breeze through it. So my challenge to you is focus on just 3 things. It will hone in and sharpen your things and your skill set. And you can see also that one thing that I want to point out here, that these are not separate skills. It's a continuum, right? So if it is really hard for you to identify the right problem, if you don't know how to have empathy with your users in business and vice versa, right? So in conclusion, this is the last piece that I'm going to add. This is the very last sentence in the penalty of leadership. That which is good and great makes itself known, no matter how loud the clamor or denial. That which deserves to live, lives. So I just have one question to you guys. Who among you in the audience know the brand Packard? Wow, there's actually like 12. Who among in the audience knows the brand Cadillac? Almost 100% you guys raised your hands here. So I challenge you. There's things I challenge you as product managers, you as designers or researchers. You can do this. It takes some mindset. It takes some change of mindset and adjustment there. But you're meant to build masterpieces that would last for that would stand the test of time. So that's all I have today. Thank you so much, and appreciate your time.
Awesome. Okay, Albert. Question.
Yes.
Time. What ways do you recommend when reaching out to team members to support with mental health?
Yeah. Boy, that's a tough one because it's really hard when you're remote, right? You know, you don't know, but it's the skill set of empathy as well. You know, like I think when you hone into the skills, it applies to your job and it applies to your family as well, to your friends, to your relationships. It's pretty amazing. I think it's really it's the key to actually help with mental health. And the very basic one I would say is make time. Something that I probably didn't share with this is a week, for about 2 months, Matt reached out to me and said, "Hey, Albert, we should go out to lunch." And I was already in a startup, and startup is crazy. That was our first year. It was just nonstop work, you know. And I was telling him, I was like, "Matt, I'm busy, you know, or I'm in Las Vegas right now." And the Saturday before something happened in his home, he texted me and said, "Albert, you're gonna go out to lunch for the 3rd time." And I was like, "Matt, so sorry. I'm so busy. How about in a month?" And that Monday, a CEO called me and said, "Hey, Albert, I got something to tell you." It's like, "Hey, what?" And it's like, and he could not speak on the other side of the line. It's like, weird. Like, you're a CEO, and why does it take so long? It's like, Matt is gone. I was like, "What do you mean Matt is gone?" It's like, he told me the story that maybe I'm not privy to do, but it's the simplicity of just make time. Make time with your coworker.
I think we should end it there, to be honest. Or I'm going to cry. So let's just give Albert another round of applause. Thank you, everyone.